just when we were starting to get a handle on what we needed to do, my business partner and mentor passed away at 54.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Point Blank Safety Services. These guys are changing the game when you think about security. They are using active duty officers on their off-duty time. Not only giving these officers an additional income, because we all know police officers just aren't paid that well, but they're giving them off-duty income and using the highest caliber of people to secure our highways, our buildings, and bridges. Check them out at pointblanksafety.com.
So this should be a really, really fun episode today. I'm bringing you Sean Tyler. If you see his name, you'll understand why I got to call him Sean Tyler. It was a whole thing right before the show started. So I'll let him share that bit of knowledge with you at some point. But it should be a fun episode as we bring him to the table. As always, I'm not going to read his bio. We're just going to roll with it. Sean Tyler, welcome to the – I caught it. Welcome to the show, brother. Tell us your story. Tell us your journey.
Sure thing, Donnie. Well, I don't even know where to begin, so let's start with the name because that's going to be the fun one. So, the most popular name when I was born was Sean, followed by Tyler. So my parents, in their infinite wisdom, were like, hey, let's call this kid both. Like in kindergarten, there were 5 Seans and 1 Tyler. So I became the next Tyler just to make – because otherwise everybody was Sean, Sean, Sean. And my name is actually Sean Tyler, like Sean Luke, like it's hyphenated, only it's not hyphenated because
So your first name is Sean Tyler.
Yeah, it is one name. It is just a one name thing, Sean Tyler. But you tell people that your name is Sean Tyler, and they're like, "Pleasure to meet you, Sean," and then they assume that your last name is Tyler, and then it just makes for all the people. I feel the most.
Put the names together like one word.
Yes, like just and write no space, and then it would just be easier. I feel the worst for my wife because she never knows what to call me when she's
mad.
When she's mad at me, or when she's dealing with like banking. We'll phone into the bank. She's like, I don't know what you have him under. He could be under anything.
I feel you, man, because I got the last name Bovine, and nobody can ever pronounce it. So growing up, you just listened for something close that started with B, and you just raised your hand, you know. So, all right, brother, tell us your story. Who the hell are you?
My name is Sean Tyler Foley. I'm the owner of Drop the Mic Speakers Agency and Training. I've been an actor and entrepreneur basically all of my life. Got into film and television when I was 6 years old. Retired from the business around 24, 25, did everything from stage to film to stunts. Just because of that, I'd always had an entrepreneurial kind of spirit. I've owned 3 businesses, had 2 go horribly sideways. I've raised 1 from the ashes, and that's just kind of been me.
Nice. So you've done the whole stage, film, and actor. Anything that anybody would know about?
Tons of stuff they know about, nothing they'd recognize me in, which is right?
So if we squint really hard at the credits, we'll see your name somewhere. No.
Yeah, so the best work that you can see me in, if anybody actually wants to see, you know, the face behind the voice, probably Carrie, the remake, so the 2004 one with Angela Bettis, and I don't even think I pronounced that right, by the way, or Door to Door with William H. Macy is another one where I have a nice little snippet.
Not even a cameo. Do you at least get a line or something?
Oh yeah, no, I get a couple of lines. So here's the thing. I made a career out of playing mean guys and gay guys. It was one of the 2. and in both of those ones, I happen to play mean guys. So in Door to Door, I make fun of William H. Macy, and Helen Mirren spills a glass of water all over my groinal area. So that was fun. I get to put that on my resume. And in Carrie, I make fun of Carrie. I'm like one of the guys to pick on her.
Good job. So you cause all the shit. Good job.
Yeah, it's all my fault right there. I'm the reason the sound burns. Yep.
Nice. So how did you get into acting and all that at 6 years old? Were mom and dad just desperate to get somebody in that world, and here you go? Or?
Yeah, no, actually, it's an odd tale. So my father actually passed away when I was 6, and my mom and my uncle were kind of looking for an outlet for me. My uncle worked downtown. He was very near to the theater district. He actually worked for the city, and the main theater in my city was right across from town hall. And so in his lunch hours, he overheard a casting director complaining about how hard a time they were having finding a boy to play Tiny Tim in A Christmas Carol. And he was like, my nephew is small and has a lot of time on his hands, so let's maybe make this an outlet for him. So I started in theater at 6 years old, and it's one of those things, once you start acting, it just kind of morphs, particularly if you can half decently at 6 years old remember lines and deliver it. You don't have to have any acting chops at that point, right? You're just happy to have.
You're just a cute little kid that can repeat a line, so yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Come on, run out, smile, God bless everyone, and then walk away, right? It kept going from there. I got involved, theater in junior high and elementary. I ended up going to a fine arts high school because I really got the bug and the passion. I'm Canadian, so forgive me for my abouts and aboots, but went to Vancouver, which is our version of Hollywood, and spent a good deal of time out there filming a lot of really fun projects, actually. Like I said, ton of day stuff. I got to be in a ton of film and a lot of well-known projects and things that you'll never see me in. Anton Yelchin, the great late Anton Yelchin. I was a stunt double and stand-in for him on a project called Jack, which was great to have him. And I followed his career and was so proud of him. And, sad to have lost him last year. So.
Nice. So what's it like to be a stunt double? I got to say, with all my journey and everybody I've talked to, and I've talked to actors, actresses, I got a good friend that was like Raphael in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. He was a guy in the costume.
I was in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV show.
Were you really?
Yeah. I got my butt kicked by a Ninja Turtle. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. I should introduce you to my buddy Ken Scott because he literally plays, I'm pretty sure it's Raphael. He corrects me all the time.
He's like, no, I was Donatello.
Right. And, even funnier about Ken is he's got this movie that's this Karate Kid knockoff with, I think it's Billy, the Tybo guy, Billy something, and him are in the movie.
Billy Banks.
Yeah, Billy Banks. So him and Billy Banks are in this like Karate Kid knockoff movie, and it's so bad. So I make fun of him all the time. But I haven't actually talked to somebody who did the whole stunt and double thing. So what's that life like?
So first of all, it's crazy, and there's inevitably going to be somebody who hears this podcast who knows me, and they're going to be like, "STF, you were barely a stunt double," which is true. I did stunts. I did double little kids when I was younger. I did stunt, but it's such a weird business. It's a lot of. First of all, it's a very tight-knit, closed community. Everybody who's into stunts knows everybody who's in the stunt world. It's a real fraternity, really. But it's a bizarre thing because you are there literally to do one thing, and there's a lot of setup and time that goes into getting the stunts prepared. So what ends up being a flash on the screen, 10, 15 seconds tops, usually only 2 or 3, but blink and you miss it kind of stuff, takes weeks and sometimes months of training and setup and rehearsal. And it's always weird when you actually are doubling somebody because they do try to find people that closely approximate the star. So when you're going in and you look like a somebody, that's always really bizarre.
So you obviously were a stunt double for like Brad Pitt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They wanted me to take over the role, but
right.
we left it to Brad. Yeah, but things like working with Anton, right, which would have been my biggest doubling stuff. He, it was really cool. Like, and here's the thing: at the time, he was 14, and I was 23. So you're like,
but you're the same size, so it worked.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we were like right on. And it was just, it was neat. And I know the big stunt that I remember doing for him in the movie, the character Jack ends up jumping out of a boat, and where we were filming it at is a lake in BC called was it Barrier Lake? No, Burns Lake. It's up at Burns Lake. It's freezing cold. Okay. Canada's already a cold place to stay. You start swimming in glacial fed waters, and it's cold. So obviously they're not going to make poor Anton jump into the lake. No. You get Sean Tyler to jump into the lake. That makes sense. So had it up, and I'm 135 pounds, 5'8", and 135 pounds soaking wet, so that was good jumping into the lake. And dressed up in a dry suit underneath the wardrobe clothes. I had on the wig to approximate his hair, and doing the diving. And we'd rehearsed it a couple of times. I did a couple of cold water plunges, just trying to like get used to it. They had heaters and everything ready, and I had to do about a 30-meter, so 90-foot swim to the shore from
Thank
the
you
boat.
for breaking us down for us Americans. The meter. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Hey, I get it. You're all the way, right? So about 90 to 100-foot swim to the shore, which never sounds like much until you're freezing
your nuts off. Pardon my French.
Freezing cold. I remember about the third stroke in, my whole body was tensing like this. I was just like, and like every stroke, and I'm padded. Like, so I'm in a dry suit, so you're already way more buoyant than you would normally be, but you have all the clothes on and they're sticky and sloppy, and I just remember being like, I hope my stunt adjustment on this is massive. That's the thing, as a stuntman, you get the stunt coordinator always comes up with what there's a day rate, and then they give you an adjustment for the level of danger for what you were doing. And that one I don't think was very high.
That's awesome. So you go from the film and stage and acting to the wildly famous stunt guy. I'm just doing that for your stunt friends.
Thanks.
You're welcome. To retiring from all that at the age of 24, which is funny. Well, not too. I mean, I had a lot of Marine buddies that retire in their 40s, so it's not too far off from that thought process. But from 24 years old, you retire from that. Then where's life take you?
So had to get a real job.
That's completely overrated, but
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is that for somebody who nobody knows, I would say I was fairly successful in film and television. I was very blessed to have started young and been exposed to a lot early on, so that I was actually able to make a career when I left home. I mean, I started, again, going to fine arts high school. I had moved away from home because I actually went to school at the school, and I can't think of the word right now, but I stayed with families in the town where the school was at. Billeted, that would be the word that I was looking for. And so I'd actually been away from home starting at around 14. And I was lucky to have moved out at 17 to Vancouver and be able to do a good chunk of time. So I had built up a fairly nice bankroll and went back to school. I got an engineering discipline. I'm not an engineer, but I did take
No, it sounds like you can carry on a conversation, so I don't think you're an engineer.
No, exactly, right? I don't need to pull out a slide rule to figure out how to do this.
Right.
But I did get an engineering background and started my first business as an aerial survey firm. And we'd basically take pictures of the ground and use it to map it. It's a really fun process. And actually I have a history.
I'm sorry, it was a really fun what?
Process.
I was just making sure I heard it all.
What did you hear?
Yeah. Well, I heard process because you always say it wrong. And I had a Canadian guy one time says, Donnie, it's process. It's just like the Pro Bowl. You don't say the Pro Bowl. It's the Pro Bowl. I'm like, shut up, Canadian guy. Go back to your phone. All right, go ahead.
And then he said, what did he do then? He apologized for it. He said sorry. And then he said it wrong because he said it sorry instead of sorry.
Right.
Oh, I know. Trust me. As somebody who spent 20 years trying to lose the accent or at least homogenize it to a middle American.
Right.
Midwest. We want a good Midwest accent out of you.
Dude, I get it. Young in my career, I lived in St. Louis. I moved up there from Texas. I had a senior executive tell me two things. He said, one, don't ever tell anybody you're a veteran. It'll do nothing for you in business. So it's when I stopped telling people I was a veteran. Second thing is he's like, you got to lose the twang. You can't say y'all. You can't say, anything, no twang whatsoever. So I fought for years to get rid of all twang, and I don't have that big of an accent, but part of it is because I fought so damn long to get rid of it, all that through. So I get it.
And you know what's funny, Donnie, is I'd turn around and give you the exact opposite. I'd be like, embrace who you are. Get that.
That's what I tell everybody now, when I coach and everything else, dude, just be your authentic self because that's what everybody wants to see. But growing up as an impressionable young guy in corporate America, somebody's like, oh, yeah, yes, sir, whatever you say. I mean.
Oh, I know. And the funny thing is, so career transition, because I was in stunts, because I was in a business failed horribly, but out of it, there's a big safety push in where I live. And we needed to get a safety program put in place. So I ended up transitioning from doing the schematics engineering stuff, the mapping, into safety of all things, mostly because I understood safety from my stunt background, which is a weird kind of transition and thing to understand.
So from a kid flinging himself out of his boat, you learn to be safe.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the talks that I love to do, one of the corporate facilitations that I love to do is called Why Jumping Out of Windows Was the Safest Thing I've Ever Done.
That's awesome. I get it.
Like all the planning that went into doing a 40 or 50 or 60 foot high fall, not the big ones, right? I'm not talking like the 120 dives into airbags, which are a process, but like the small guys, the 40, 50 feet into a level of cardboard boxes is what we usually jump into. We just fall into a layer about 5 deep of cardboard boxes. But the planning that went into it, it really was. It was as weird as it is. It's the safest thing that I ever did. And I really got this understanding for safety. But being in safety, the guys that I love to work with, the best safety professionals, and just generally the best professionals that I've ever worked with, they're all ex-military. They're all vets. Understanding of systems and I think there's a misconception that veterans are rigid. Do you know what I mean? Like
right.
Everything has to be. I think it's a misconception. I think there is an understanding of system and process. But I think that one of the things that I don't think a lot of people realize about military personnel is that you have an unbelievable ability to flex within situations and find solutions in a very adaptive way. And it's something that I've always admired, and any chance I get to work with vets, I'm like, please, you're a vet? Great. Let's get this thing going.
Right. It's true. It's a very small percentage of the veteran population that is that hard-nosed, jackass that just wants to plow somebody in the head. Most of us are easygoing guys that just want to accomplish a mission, whatever the mission is you throw in front of us, right?
Yes.
And the biggest struggle I think people have with vets is they're not used to somebody coming into a situation and they're like, we need to accomplish X. And they're like, okay, got it. Right? And they're gone. They're trying to accomplish when they're like, no, let me explain X, Y, Z, B. I'm like, no, we got it. Just let us go.
We got it.
Yeah.
One of the gentlemen that I work with quite often in the public speaking realm, Sean Douglas, he's a vet based out of South Carolina.
I know Sean. He's a good dude.
Right? Isn't he?
He just did absolutely. He was my first guest on this podcast ever.
Oh, he is phenomenal. That man breaks tasks down in such a simplistic way and just when you want to talk about crushing goals and just crushing life, like, God, Sean Douglas, I have like this man crush for. I love it.
He's an ugly dude, so I mean. I'm going to make sure I send him this episode specifically just for that.
I think we should.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So why did the first business bomb? I mean, what happened?
Oh, so many things.
Oh, so at least we know if you're going to blow something up, you're going to go all in. I mean.
Oh, yeah. No, it was all in. So I didn't do any kind of market research. I like to think that we were ahead of our time. And the reality is I just didn't know how to market the thing that I was putting together. Originally, the business, and we totally got away from the business model that was working, right? Take something successful and then stop doing that thing. Originally, we had a fleet of 3 planes, taking pictures of the ground and putting together 3D models, stereo models with the pictures, orthophotos for people who know the lingo. And then we'd pull out digital elevation models from it, and there was a lot of information that we could get to. And then LiDAR was really becoming a thing. LiDAR is laser dots on the ground to come up with the contours of how the ground is laid out. We had all of these systems, but the planes are expensive, right? Like, they are not cheap things to have or to maintain. And neither is the equipment, the camera equipment that we're talking about. Like, it's camera equipment that will take very detailed photographs of the ground from 15, 20,000 feet in the air, 10,000 feet in the air. So that equipment is expensive to maintain too. So we thought, well, let's get out of the air. Let's start doing this LiDAR stuff inside buildings. And we'll take pictures and we'll do 3D modeling of buildings, and that'll be the newest, greatest. There's so many people who could use it. Film and television could use it. Realtors could use it. Builders could use it for warranty. The applications are endless. And we never bothered asking those people if they actually wanted it or if they
Right.
So millions of dollars dumped into developing the tech, getting it ready and going, all the while starting to steer away from the bread and butter that had been sustaining us. It didn't take off the way that it needed to. Didn't do the market research, didn't have the capital to back it up, certainly didn't have the reserves or the cash flow to sustain the venture. Lack of understanding of the industries that we were trying to breach into, and then just to make it super, super, super fun, just when we were starting to get a handle on what we needed to do, my business partner and mentor passed away at 54. Rapidly, suddenly. On Friday, she wasn't feeling well, went to the hospital. Sunday, she was dead.
Wow.
And I didn't have the right business insurance in place. We didn't have any kind of succession in place, and I watched what could have been a wonderful, wonderful empire just almost literally overnight vanish. And that sucked. Yeah. Like, it stung. I lost a friend. I lost a mentor. I lost a role model in my life and my business and my livelihood. This was the thing that I was going to do for the next 10, 15 years. It was going to set myself up, my family, financial freedom, independence, the whole gambit, and it just gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but some good lessons learned from it.
Well, and that's why I tell everybody, if you look back on anything, sometimes the more tragic the better, because the more tragic the catastrophe, the more life lessons come out of it. And it's who you become on the back end of it all that really matters. I'm glad I wasn't in your shoes, but hindsight 2020, I'm glad you went through the experience because of who it shaped you into as you moved on. Where'd you go from there? You go through one hell of an experience.
The nice thing with it was because, again, I tend to deal with small industries, right? The geomatics industry, the mapping and surveying industry, not very large, particularly when you start getting very niche with what I was doing with LiDAR. And there was another company that was doing similar things, only they were smart enough to know that trying to scan inside of buildings was not a thing yet, at least on a mobile platform. People were still doing it static. They understood that. So they decided to do mobile scanning mounted on a truck driving around. So they brought me on board and kind of gave me that soft place to land. Another really good industry professional, another mentor of mine, took me under his wings, and I had an opportunity to just kind of reset and refocus working for him. The whole time he knew I wasn't going to be long for the shop. You know, I was there about a year and a half, but that entrepreneurial bug just, it sticks. When it's in you, it's in you. It doesn't go. And I knew that I wanted to get back to being artistic, creative. I've always loved speaking. And I had really started to become focused on the safety too. So I kind of branched off, and they were giving me the freedom and flexibility to start auditing people's systems, coming up with safety programs, and really talking about safety. And that's really where my next branch became, right? I started actively seeking out speaking gigs as a safety professional, trying to talk about safety, trying to do those keynote presentations that weren't the doom and gloom ones. You know, there's a place for those. I think everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has a story to tell. And if you've gone through something tragic, particularly an industrial accident that has left you permanently changed, there is a place to share that story. But I also don't think that should be the only safety story that gets told.
Thank you for that, because I know I've been through a couple of safety presentations, and you walk out and you're like, I don't even want to turn my phone on. I don't want to turn my computer on. You know, I don't want to step outside without a gun.
And there are some really good positives in safety and some amazing resources. There's amazing people. There's amazing stories. I know one of the safety professionals that I work with, she is a genius. And some of the things she does as far as statistical analysis goes in being able to track and trend within her organization. She works for a large manufacturing corporation. They manufacture large oil and gas tanks and vessels. A lot of stuff that can go wrong within her business. Just over 900 employees. She's able to anticipate when and where the issues are going to crop up and be able to stop them before they do a lot of times.
Wow.
And she has the proof in the pudding, because when people don't listen to her, and then the stuff that she says was going to happen, like she's Nostradamus, right? Like she knows, she can just see it. And those are the people that I want to bring to light and tell their story and help them tell their story too, which is then the transition. So I started seeking all these speaking gigs out, and it was a struggle because nobody knew who I was. I wasn't a speaker, right? If you're not Tony Robbins, they're not paying you to come and talk on their stage. And I found it frustrating because I'm not an engineer, so I am articulate.
Right.
I can tell a story, and I can impact people. I've been doing this since I was 6 years old. Public speaking is a thing that I just do and do well. And the fact that I had such a hard time getting on the stage frustrated me. Like application after application after application. And nobody would tell you the things that you needed to do. Nobody told me I needed a Sizzler reel. Nobody told me that I needed to have a one sheet. Nobody told me what a speaker bureau was. You know, these were things that I stumble on as some of that jargon kept getting kicked back if I could get some feedback. One of the things that I learned very early on, having to sell myself and having to sell my companies, is I don't mind if I'm not the right fit for you, but I'll always ask why. If anybody says no, I'm like, thank you very much. Why? And not in a disrespectful way. I need to know, why am I not that right fit? And so I would always follow up with these people. Thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback. I understand that I won't be selected, but why? And I started to get some of this answer and this information. And I thought, well, if I'm having this kind of a struggle and I'm a good speaker, what about the people who don't even have that, who have stories to tell, who have the ability to impact people far better than I do? Like, my story is not all that woefully tragic, right? I am a mid to late 30s white guy with a good education and a middle class background. Like, I heard absolutely no violins playing in.
Well,
the
and throw in a half-ass stunt guy that was like famous for 2 seconds in a movie. I mean,
right? Very minor D-list stardom. In film and television, like I have led a very blessed life, so mine isn't that big tale of woe, but there are some people who have undergone some amazing things or have overcome adversity that I can't even fathom. And their story needs to get told. And that started to become a driving mission for me. I was like, no, I need to use my powers for good instead of evil. And I need to get these people's stories told. How do we get them trained up? How do they get to understand how to get onto the stage? It shouldn't be a struggle, was my thought.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you, but here's what I love about this is I was at an event, and they had 3 professionals that brought in professional speakers, right? That was their job for conventions, for everything. And it was this Q&A thing. And one of the questions that finally came up, I was getting ready to ask if somebody beat me to the punch, was, what's that number one thing you use to hire a speaker? And this whole time they've been talking about the speaker sheets, they've been talking about, the speaker reels, and they've been talking about all this marketing stuff to do as a speaker. And 3 different people up there, their response was, well, 95% of the time we hire people based on who referred us. It's all networking. Another one was like 98% of the time it's networking. The other one was like, probably 97, 98% of the time it's networking. And which led me to ask my question. I'm like, well, how the hell do we get to you? Is how do we network so I meet you or I'm introduced to you? And they're like, network better. All right, asshole. I network all over the fucking place. Pardon my French. Yeah. And I have friends and relationships everywhere, but getting to you being that guy. So that's what I love about what you do. Continue on is because it's needed.
Well, and that's exactly, and it is that piece, right? You need that introduction. Nobody, and I don't care what business you're in, a warm introduction beats a cold call any day, right? And we all know that. It's a principle that we get, and I get it because I've been on both ends of that, right? When I was in film and television, I was an actor. I also was in casting, and I directed a couple of projects. Again, very small. Nobody knows. We're not even going to drop the names. But I've been on both sides of the camera. I got it. I've been on both sides of the speaking, too. I had to hire speakers for events that I'm doing. And I hire the ones that I know and that I trust, or that somebody says, no, you've got to get this person in. They're unbelievable. She does this. He does that. That's amazing. And those are the people that I hire. And that's why, for me, it became this mission. I was like, how do we get people's stories out? Because everybody has one. And if we're given the opportunity to find that right market and get in front and be able to impact people, like actually tell the story that we want to tell, because that's usually the biggest hang up. The clients that I work with when I'm working one-on-one with them, they have an idea of the thing that they want to say, but they're not saying the thing they need to say. And it becomes a very difficult thing to open up that vulnerability, to expose yourself and say, hey, look, I screwed up. I had a business that failed horribly and miserably in about 1,000 different ways. These are the lessons that I learned. And I think that becomes the real message, is showing people what you've learned through the adversity, admitting the flaws, showing the lessons, and then crafting that message in a way that has people nodding along with you in the audience. Telling that story that impacts them so that they're right there with you, that they identify with you, and they're going, that speaks to me, I get it, because that story has become universal.
What's interesting is I've had a couple of gentlemen on the podcast that, are suicide survivors, and they speak across the world. And one of them wrote a book called Life After Failing Suicide. And, when he talks, he said he didn't really want to be that speaker. He didn't want to be, the guy on stage talking about suicide. But as he was starting to share his stories, the people started raising their hands, and he started getting the messages saying, well, you just saved my life. You just prevented me from doing it. And it's that authenticity of telling your story, the real, the raw, that gets people to nod your head as you said, and move forward. How do you get people to be able to tell their authentic story? 'Cause some of that's vulnerable as hell.
Here's the thing, and I do this all over the place. I do my nice little 20-minute or 1-hour presentation on public speaking, and I get people, and I always poll the audience. And the first thing I ask them is, what's your biggest fear? Because we all know that, and we've seen that statistic, public speaking is a bigger fear than death. And Seinfeld has the famous joke, which means that you'd rather be the person in the casket than giving the eulogy. And I always want to know why. What is your fear? And inevitably, almost everyone says, well, I'm afraid of being judged. I don't want to expose myself because I don't want to be judged. And it's that fear of judgment that keeps people back, or keeps them, they get that statistic presentation where they're just going to run the PowerPoint with the charts and the slides in the back because they don't want to tell the story. And what I work with, the first thing I always tell people, and it's easier when I tell them in the presentation when I actually have a live audience, but I ask people when they're in the audience who came here today with the expectation that I as a speaker would suck, or that any of the speakers up on the stage today were going to bomb and they were going to be horrible. Why did you show up thinking that? And if you did show up thinking that, why did you show up?
Show up in the first place. Yeah, why are you still here, right?
We don't go to presentations thinking that they're going to be horrible. We go to presentations to learn something new. And if you are the person up on the stage, you are the person of authority. Whether you feel that you're an authority or not, you are. Yeah. You were there. You have something to say.
I love that because for the last 7, almost 8 years, I was a sales trainer, and I did training all over the U.S. And one of the things that I would tell people in their arsenal is, I don't care what you sell, you should be on stage. Because as soon as you're in front of the room, you get that authority. You get that you could be the biggest idiot on the face of the earth and have no idea what the hell you're talking about. But simply because you have the balls to get on stage, you get that respect and that authority, and people want to know what you do, and they want to know more.
Exactly. Yeah. And so for salespeople, you need to be on stage. And even if it's just inspirational or motivational speaking, right? And I prefer the inspirational as opposed to the motivational, because motivation fades, right? We've all been to that event where you're juiced up for the first day, maybe even the second or the third day, but then it fades. But an inspirational speaker sticks with you. Agreed. That story stays with you. And you may not be juiced up by it, but 2 or 3 months down the road, it kind of triggers back to you. So you may not feel, I hear it all the time, yeah, but my story isn't important, or nobody is going to care about my story. Well, you know what? You never know until you start talking. And to your friend that does the suicide talks, I have a really good friend of mine, Jared Morrison, and he does a talk called The 10-Minute Time Machine. And it talks about the moment where he had been on a mission for years to kill himself. But the irony is that he didn't want to do it in a way that would disadvantage his children. So he needed to figure out a way to accidentally kill himself so that his life insurance would still stay valid.
Right.
And the best way for him to do it was to get into his addiction and try to kill himself with a combination of pills and alcohol. And he tried for years and years and years to accomplish it. And to the point where it had ended his marriage, he didn't even have custody of his kids anymore. And then for some reason, one day, his ex-wife at that point needed him to take the kids for just one night. And it happened to be the one night that he got it right. Mm. And he just about was gone from this world. If it wasn't for his son phoning 911 and getting people there, I would have lost my best friend. They would have lost their father. And he tells that story in a way that I never could, because obviously I didn't live it. But he tells it with humor and grace and honesty, and you watch the audience over that 45-minute ride with him, and they laugh, they cry, they leave profoundly changed, and inevitably, there's 1 or 2 people in the audience who will come up to him afterwards and do the same thing that they do for your other guests there, and they say that I was on my way. Today I was just putting on a face because tomorrow I'd already planned to check out. Right. And thank you for sharing it. And he always talks about it. The 10-minute time machine title came from the fact that if he had a time machine and could go back in time, he wouldn't. He wouldn't change a thing because he needed that. He needed the wake up. And his life is profoundly better now. He is with a partner that loves him and supports him. He has a better relationship with his children. His ex and him have a relationship that they never had. Hell, the man is traipsing around Italy as we speak right now. And those are things that he could never have imagined for himself 3 years ago.
Right.
And that's the power of speech. That's the power of story. So anybody who feels that their story doesn't matter or doesn't have impact, it matters. It has impact. And if you want to share it, find a stage.
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
1,000 groups out there to do it.
Well, and that's what I think, and I love how you say it, because I think people just need to understand that by sharing their story, they're going to help or inspire somebody else to either go further in life, not do something they're going to regret. They're going to impact somebody just by having the courage of sharing their story. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you're coaching and working with people on how to do this. Are you also helping them find the speaking engagements?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, Drop the Mic is an all service. So we have 4 tiers altogether. Tier 1 being people who've never spoken before. They've got this idea in their head that they want to do it, and they're crazy just like me and want to get up on stage. And we teach them the craft of storytelling, the craft of speaking from stage, from the simplistics of just even blocking to actually crafting a speech. We help them get together things like the one sheet and the speaker reel and the website so that they can promote themselves, so that when they have that chance to network and be in front of the people, that when they give them the card and say, this is what I do, that they have some place to go back to support that message and say, no, I really actually am a speaker. Once we've got them trained up, then they kind of move into that tier 2. That's that. Now we're starting to speak. We're actually doing this thing for real, maybe making a couple $100 a talk here and there. And then once we've established them as a speaker, then they move up into the tier 3 and tier 4 speaking. So tier 3 is that 5,000 to 10,000 range talk. And then our tier 4s are our elite speakers, the ones that are commanding 5 figures and higher to show up on the stage. And we show them how to seek out those speaking engagements. Sean Douglas came up with a really good training system for us to show people how to hyper focus. And if it's the thing that you want to do, how to break it down and really just a ninja style attack it, in a very military way, in a systems-oriented way that only Sean Douglas could have come up with, and he does it beautifully. And so that's a system that we show people how to do. Plus, we have a pool of agents because we are representing our tier 3 and tier 4 clients and getting them placed. So we make those speaking opportunities that we've found for our tier 3 and 4 available to our tier 1s and 2s, and we always encourage them, apply. You may not get it, you may not have the name, but apply, get used to applying, because you may not be right for this gig, but again, speaking, small world, there's not a lot of promoters, and they start to remember your name.
Right.
Right? So you may not be right for this opportunity here, but you are definitely right for this opportunity here.
That's huge. That's huge, man. Thank you for what you do and helping people find their voice. I think that's huge. And I love the name of the company, Drop the Mic, by the way. I mean, That's what I do at the end of every one of the speeches I give, is I just drop the mic and walk off stage. So that's because I'm such a rock star speaker. I mean, I did it in my own mind. So
that's right. I can't get away with it because I wear a lavalier and it just doesn't have the same effect. Right?
No. That's awesome. That's awesome. So as we get close to the end of this thing, man, and seriously, thank you for being on the show. Here's my hang-up question that I catch a lot of people on at the end of every show I do. So you're forewarned. If you were to leave my audience with a phrase or a thought or a quote that they can take with them on their journey, something that maybe they're going through hell, they're stacked up against it, that they can pull out of their tool belts, that they could use as they continue on their journey, what would be that phrase or quote that you would say, use this, it'll help you get through it?
You're stronger than you know, and your voice has more power than you ever possibly understand.
Beautiful, beautiful. Man, Sean Tyler, I got it right. Thank you so much, dude, for being on the show, man. And what a cool story. I really appreciate you letting us in as part of your journey. Looking forward to doing a ton of collaborations with you in the future, sharing our Rolodexes and our contacts and everything else, man. Thanks a lot for being on the show.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Donnie. Thank you.
Guys, thanks so much for listening to this episode. I hope you were impressed by it as much as I was. Man, keep kicking ass in life. Please do me a favor. Comment, share, tell your friends about this. Every share just brightens my day.